The Knicks roster for next season is finally fully completed. According to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, he reports that the Knicks used their final roster spot to sign Landry Shamet. We're going to break down these latest reports and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. The Knicks signed Landry Shamet with their final roster spot. For weeks now, we have been talking about the Knicks, that final roster spot, and what they were going to do with it. We were speaking about a number of names, a number of free agents, but one person, a player I never considered because he was a guard and I thought the Knicks had enough guards already, was Landry Shamet. But to everybody's surprise, the Knicks announced today that they have signed Shamet to that final roster spot. Let's break down these latest reports from ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. According to Woj, he states free agent guard Landry Shamet has agreed on a one-year deal with the New York Knicks. Shamet has career averages of 8.7 points and 38% on three-pointers. Shout out to Ian Bagley of SNY for giving us the following information. Landry Shamet gives the Knicks shooting and the veteran depth that they didn't have last season when injuries mounted. League sources familiar with the matter say being in a winning environment was important to Shamet, so the Knicks had an edge over other suitors. Shamet played with Mikal Bridges in Phoenix as well, too. He is on a one-year deal with the Knicks, as ESPN first reported. Clubs can have 20 players under contract in training camp and will need to get it down to 15 guaranteed contracts by opening night. Shout out to the Strickland for giving us the following update. According to them, the Knicks have now filled all 15 guaranteed roster spots for the 2024-2025 season. Here's the Knicks' full roster. In terms of guards, they have Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Deuce McBride, Tyler Kolek, now Landry Shamet, and of course, Cam Payne. In terms of wings, we have Julius Randle, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Keita Bates-Diop, and Pacome Dadier. And for our bigs, we have Mitchell Robinson, Precious Achiuwa, and Jericho Sims. Now, I can't lie to you guys. When I first heard about this report, I was a little bit surprised, shocked even, because again, looking at the Knicks roster as of right now, look at all the guards we had before we added Shamet. We had Brunson, we had DiVincenzo, McBride, Kolek, and Payne. So I ask you, when you look at the roster top to bottom, with that final roster spot, did we really need to add another guard? Because if you look at the roster here, I'm looking at the bigs. I'm seeing Mitchell Robinson, Precious Achiuwa, and Jericho Sims. And that still has me concerned. Mitchell Robinson might miss the start of the season. And if that's the case, that gives us two bigs, Precious Achiuwa and Jericho Sims. And the only other option the Knicks have at center is if they experiment with that position and they try OG Anunoby and Julius Randle at that position. And the only problem with that is Randle and OG are both coming off of injuries. And I'm not saying they can't play that position, but ask yourself, given the position that they're in right now, the injuries they're coming off of, do you really want to stretch the Knicks and have them play both of those guys at the center position? Because in my opinion, I would say no. I would rather the Knicks utilize the MLE and get somebody on this roster that we absolutely needed. All due respect to Shamet. I do like his game. I like him as a guard. He can do good things on the court. So there's no knock against him. It's just with this Knicks team, we really didn't need another player like Shamet. We really didn't need another guard. However, if I'm just thinking outside the box here, I'm looking at the Knicks roster and I'm thinking about potentially what the Knicks are rumored to do, because all the reports are indicating that the Knicks are looking to make a major deal at the trade deadline. If that's the case, then you need to add players on this roster that are going to be desired at the deadline. And players like Shamet, players like Payne, players like Precious Achiuwa, maybe some of our protected picks. All of those things are going to be factors when it comes to the Knicks looking at other potential trade targets at the deadline. And we already know there have been a number of targets that have been linked to the Knicks. We're talking about Walker Kessler, Robert Williams III. But one thing remains clear. The Knicks, their interest in adding another backup center or potentially another starting center, that has been at the forefront of their minds since the offseason. Since they added Mikal Bridges, after that move happened, their main priority was trying to add another big to this roster. Unfortunately, they were not able to do that, not during free agency and not via trade. Now the only option they have left is looking at the trade deadline and potentially making a deal at that point in time for another big. But if they're going to do that, they're going to need the right pieces, they're going to need the right players, and they're going to need the right picks in order to get that center that they need on this team. Realistically, if you're looking out there at the deadline, I think the most realistic option for the Knicks to trade for is going to be Jonas Valanciunas because everything makes sense. The cost makes sense. The trade package makes sense. We have Washington's first-round pick. Even though it's protected and means nothing to us, it means everything to them. So I can see that trade happening. I can also see a Kessler trade happening only if Danny Ainge reduces his cost on Kessler. And maybe that happens if he doesn't have a good year. Because if he doesn't have a good year, then his value's already going down. And we already know how the Jazz feel about him. So it's not like we understand the Jazz want to keep him around long term. So it's not like they have a lot of leverage there. So a lot of things are going to have to go right for the Knicks in order for them to get Kessler. But is there a possibility of that happening? Absolutely. But it starts and ends with Danny Ainge and him lowering that price. I understand that the Knicks fully have a plan in place. I believe and I trust in Leon Rose and this Knicks front office. So I'm not going to criticize the move heavy. But I will say, after looking at the Knicks roster, the one thing we didn't need was another guard. We needed a center or another big man. That's clear after you look at the roster. I'm sure Leon Rose and this Knicks front office knows that too. The only reason they would make an addition like this is because they have a plan in place for the future. They know they're going to need these guys. They're going to need players like this, these assets to go out there at the deadline and get an impactful center back on this team. And if they know that, and they know these pieces are going to help us get there and get that player that we need, and we really weren't going to use that final roster spot for anybody of any significance, then I have no problem with the Knicks going this direction. But it all has to pay out for me. It needs to pay out for Knicks fans. If we trust Leon Rose and him making all of these moves, especially in free agency, adding guards, when in reality, we need more bigs, we need more centers. If we're going to trust them at this point, then we need to make sure that at the deadline, they take care of us and they make sure they trade for that backup big that we absolutely need and that can help this Knicks team get better as we move forward into the season. Because remember, the goal is to be as healthy as possible and to be as good of a team as possible as we get to the postseason. If Leon Rose gets us there, and these are the moves, the stepping stones on the path to get there, I have no problem at all. For right now, I'm going to have faith and I'm going to trust in the Knicks front office and trust in Leon Rose. And you might ask yourself, why would I do that? Look at the roster we have right now. We are in championship contention. Leon Rose is a major factor of that. If he got us here, I believe he can get us anywhere. So for right now, even though I don't fully agree with the move, because I think there were better moves you can make, I trust in Leon Rose. I believe in him and what he's going to do for this Knicks team. And I'm going to wait patiently to see exactly what Leon Rose has planned for us. But what about you guys? What do you think about the Knicks using their final roster spot to sign guard Landry Shamet? Let me know in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.